Hello there. As anyone who knows me will be aware, I was born at the end of the 50s, and so I grew up in the 60s, and the 70s was my adolescence. And what I was just thinking about was really some of the things that the counterculture of the 60s kind of dumped on us, really, and most especially the political or quasi-political culture of the 1960s dumped on us, because I think it's had a very, very poor effect on people's mentality, because of the way it's spread throughout culture. Um, uh, the 60s did introduce a kind of leftism as a sort of popular force amongst younger people, yeah. And so it became sort of like fused with the counterculture in various aspects and various ways, yeah, which was a very unwise thing to do. The thing that really strikes me with it, though, is that following on from the sort of like materialism that it sprang from, in many ways, um, it it really degraded any kind of ethical thought, really. And it's sort of like on two counts, I think. One is that it introduced the idea of almost purely consequentialist ethics as being obviously the most sensible thing. Yeah. So basically, the term in terms of sort of like, that if the result's good, then it's ethically good. If the result is bad in some sense, then it's ethically bad, or what have you. And the trouble with that is that it's quite easy to sort of like steer that towards what's good for you. Yeah, basically. So the consequences for you then become the first thing. And that is then really souped up by a kind of Marxist type of attitude, which is that one one basically fights for one's rights. Yeah, that essentially, so if you are suffering, then if you can present that as a form of oppression, then to fight for your personal good is ethically good, whatever the situation and whatever the effect on other people, really. Yeah. Um, that's I think that sort of like that became established there, and there was also from that you saw if you were around any kind of like left wing politics, especially with people discussing and especially in sort of like in any kind of like larger groups, you saw this phenomenon of like the angry, noisy, outraged, passionate person basically being taken seriously because they were emotional and angry and claimed to be hurt. That was definitely a thing. I mean, if you ever saw student politics, it was full of that, yeah, in the 70s, yeah. Absolutely full of it, yeah. And so you developed this thing where you got sort of like passion and emotionalism fused with a completely spurious sense of ethical justification on the basis that its consequences would serve you, basically, but redressed as a question of justice, redressed as opposition to oppression, redressed as all these things. Yeah, and I think that's continued. That although you can laugh at the counterculture, but the fact is, it and the new left really influenced each other, I think. Yeah. And that emotional thing just kept on being poured into stuff. And you see that nowadays in the so-called social justice movements. And you see that nowadays in what people now term woke. Yeah. All of this sort of stuff that has its origins really in this kind of ethical corruption, essentially. Ethical and intellectual corruption in the 60s. Which is, and you could also probably characterize it as the disposal of deontological ethics, i.e., the ethics of something being right or true because it is self-evidently right and true, not because it has good consequences or bad consequences, but because it is right in itself. Yeah, yeah. such as the value of truth, for instance, etc. Anyway, that's my little thoughts for today. I have my little doggy with me, which is always a joy. And that's my thoughts for today, so I hope you're all well.